Deadlock players are blind. And when I say blind, I don't mean they're literally visually impaired. Although if you are blind and playing Deadlock, please reach out to me. I would love to hear about your story because I'm not sure how it's possible to play this game if you're actually blind. But many Deadlock players just, don't look at the information on their screen. And today I've seen enough, and I've been coaching a lot of people, and I think I need to make a video about this. Recently, in all of my coaching sessions, one thing always comes up, and it's the fact that people are chained to their towers and they don't look at the greater picture of the game. And let me show you what I mean. So this is footage of G Mechanoid, whom I coached this morning, and in his lane, he does a lot of things correct and some things incorrect, but most people do these things incorrectly, right? And I want to show you guys this lane. And I think a lot of people here will be able to relate to this because, frankly, fundamentally, G Mechanoid is playing this lane quite well, right? Like, he's being aggressive, he pushed the wave, he's taking these good trades, but I want you guys to pay attention to the mini-map once we get closer to 2 minutes, right? Because in the first 2 minutes, generally speaking, all that matters is just playing for wave pressure and trying to get initial advantage. And for example, here, he's gotten an initial advantage on the haze. However, the issue that most players have is that they'll take this initial advantage that they have on the haze, for example, and then they'll really tunnel vision on kind of keeping the pressure on this initial advantage. The reality is, in this situation, haze can simply buy healing right, not interact with the lane for 20 seconds, and then she'll be healthy again. Now, in this situation, she actually bought extra regen, which is, a decent buy as well. But if she plays passive, it's going to be really hard to kill her, especially if she just, kind of stays at her tower, because it's very difficult to dive people this early, especially when Venator is your teammate. So what should you do? Well, I think most people are blind to the options that are available to them. And what are those options? Well, the options are pretty simple. If you can't kill someone, then the next things that you can do are you can steal their resources or you can gank, right? So in this situation, this is the first blunder. Here, he's got a ton of pressure on the haze, but he keeps pressuring her, and here he's probably not going to be able to kill her. I mean, maybe if he hit a Stalker's Mark, went on the haze, they parried the tower, they might have been able to kill her, right? But that's a high-risk play, and I wouldn't necessarily do that. However, there's a very easy play, which is if instead of doing this, he kind of just moved towards the left and went to their small camp. He could have been at their small camp when it spawned, and he could have taken it, instantly securing a small lead over the enemy team. Now, it doesn't give you anything big, but it is a small lead, for sure, right? Now, the other options that are available to you if you don't want to go to the small camp are to gank nearby lanes. Now, I want you guys to look at the top. Now, the wave here has pretty much been cleared. I want you guys to pause the video and ask yourself, is there a good gank available to him here? And try to think about what you're thinking about to determine whether it's good or bad. Now that you've had a little bit of time to think about it, I assume a decent amount of you have probably come to the conclusion that ganking the lane with Silver and Abrams would be a good gank. Now, the main reasoning for a lot of you is probably, hey, they're pushed up at their tower and therefore it's a good time to gank. And you wouldn't be wrong about that. That's a very good indicator. But the other indicator that I have is their health. So both Abrams and Silver are about half HP, right? Silver's a little more than half, but Abrams is almost exactly half HP. Now, this HP threshold, these players are very killable, right? Just one ability or two abilities from Drifter is going to do most of that damage. And then if Shiv throws a knife, uses a dash, or if Graves just shoots them or uses Jar of Dead, they'll probably die, right? And so they're definitely within gankable range. So in this situation, well, he should have ganked them, right? And instead, what he does is he stays in this lane and doesn't really, do anything. He basically keeps pressuring the lane, right? It's not fundamentally wrong. You might think, okay, he's trying to maintain wave priority. He's trying to maintain the pressure on his lane. He's afraid that if he leaves, his tower is going to get taken. Another thing I want you guys to understand is that before 4 minutes, your tower is almost immortal. There's very few heroes that can actually take a tower before 4 minutes, if any. I would say McGinnis and Rem are probably the biggest exceptions. Rem actually applies so much pressure on towers early with his 3. But most heroes are not able to apply a ton of pressure, and this includes Hayes and Sinclair. They're probably not going to be able to take a tower before 4 minutes, as long as anybody is defending it. Of course, if literally no one is defending it, then it's bad, so both players can't leave. Only one person can gank. Now, I want to show you guys a situation in which I gank on a hero that you wouldn't really think is a ganker, which is Rem, right? And the reason why I want to show you guys this is that I want you to understand that you don't necessarily need to be a ganker hero to execute these, and almost any hero in the game can do this. So I'm Rem, I clear the mid wave, I'm like, hey, I don't really think we're going to push this tower, So I leave, and I notice the right lane is both half HP. So I'm going to pause here, right? So the key for me to be able to do this is that they're both half HP. Now, don't look at their health bar here. It's bug. Just looked at the top because their max HP is bugged, right? But they're both about half, okay? So I see that, and as the silly little guy that I am, I decide, hey, you know, what if we just dive them? And if you notice, my team is also healthy. Now, this is another indicator that this is going to be good. There's no ultimates in play. And so I'm like, what if I'm just going to be a little bit of a psycho and I'm just going to dive this? So I parry the tower. As you can see, I actually didn't really do any damage so far. All I've done is kind of parry the tower, and my team did it. And sometimes all they need is just kind of like a little kick in order to be a little bit more aggressive. And now obviously Billy gets parried. That was a bit of a misplay by him. And then he's going to end up dying just barely as well. And now that I'm here, well, we can take the tower. Now, of course, not every hero could take the tower in this situation, but we have literally two of the best heroes in the game, which are Rem and McGinnis, to take towers. And so we just instantly take the tower. Now, it's not going to happen all the time, but I want to show you guys other examples of ganks so that you can kind of see and start doing it and thinking about it a little bit more in your own games. Now, here's another example of a gank. Now, what I want you to know before the gank is you're always going to clear the wave, right? So I clear the wave here, and then I remember telling my teammate, hey, I don't really think we can do anything here, so I'm going to try to see if I can punish them mid. I mess up my movement, of course, and I go mid to try to see if there's anything I can do. Now, in this situation, Graves is obviously quite hurt. So once again, that's a signal, but my Haze killed the Graves. Yamato is full HP, but there was nothing I could do in my lane. And so I wanted to see if I could get anything mid. It wasn't that there was necessarily a super obvious signal. It was more so that I could go mid and not necessarily lose anything. If the gank didn't work out, I could have always just come back to the lane in time. So I get the gank, and what do? Right after, I just come back to the lane because I'm not Rem, and in this situation, I can't just take the tower. So I'm just going to head back to my tower, and in this situation, Vindicta followed me mid, so now she's fighting mid, so now Bebop is alone. So me and Paradox have a potential opportunity to fight Bebop. Well, I'm a little bit scared, so I kind of back up, and I'm just going to make it safely. And as you can see, didn't really lose anything for that. Yes, Vindicta ended up getting a kill mid, but I also got a kill, and so overall, you know, kind of created chaos. And what I want you to know is that at lower ranks, people aren't going to match your rotation, right? They're not going to be fast enough or even know that the correct play is to match your rotation a lot of the time. And so they're just going to try to foolishly push the tower. And if your gank is early enough, well, they won't really be able to get any damage on the tower, especially if you're quick about it, which is what makes ganking such a powerful option. Now, my final message to everyone that's watching, this video is very short because I don't really think that there's a ton to say about the subject. I've been having to say it in so many coaching sessions. Really, the main thing, the reason why I say Deadlock players are blind is because they're blind to the opportunities, right? So when you're playing Deadlock, there's always tons of things you can do. You can gank, you can farm boxes, you can do a camp, etc. But I find that people just stay chained in their lane and in their tower, like their life depends on it for 10, 15 minutes, especially at lower ranks. People stay in their lane for so long. And so anyone watching this video that stays in their lane for 10 minutes every game, I just want you to explore and just leave your lane. Okay. Once in a while, just go do something else in another lane. Okay. Go experiment and see how ganks work, see how that stuff works. And it's going to make you a much, much better player, and think more about the bigger picture rather than just your lane. Losing a tower isn't the end of the world, especially if you trade it for another tower elsewhere. And creating chaos very often benefits the person creating the chaos more than the person responding to the chaos. So that's what I want you to remember from this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.